So we just arrived on the planet of Naboo, and we are here at the Queen's Palace. We are here in honor of George Lucas. A couple of us were here 20 years ago when this was being filmed, when episode 2 was being filmed, and they had used this national monument as the Palace of Naboo. So we're releasing this video on a day where there's a lot of Star Wars news. The second trailer for episode 9 was released yesterday, and there's been a lot of Star Wars news the last couple of weeks. A lot of people have been reporting about rumors about what are the conditions. We don't exactly know the conditions of George's sale to Disney, and we're going to discuss in this video about what are different possibilities in which George may have sold the license to Disney. So we've all been hearing about how Disney has been sabotaging the original characters, the original Star Wars characters, in order for them to do a in-canon reboot of the Star Wars brand, and leaving all the elements that George Lucas has a stake in behind, or most of them anyway. And we ask ourselves, why would Disney have no original, very, very little original presence, very little presence of the original characters at Galaxy's Edge? Why, in Hollywood terms, why they are, dashing to kill off, Han, Luke, and unfortunately Leia, it has to be, excluded at this point. But, unless they did something, drastic to keep her in. But how they're leaving, in Hollywood terms, how they're leaving all this behind in a big hurry in this trilogy. They're getting rid of, all the lifelong major characters. And, think about how there are characters like, for example, like Akbar, like Admiral Akbar, who, could be played by other. It's not a question of an actor getting old and passing away, or or from ill health passing away, but it makes no sense to be killing off, for example, Admiral Akbar. And apart from him being a very beloved character, he was, it's an asset. So you have to ask yourself, why is Disney rushing to do this? Now, they might want to get away from paying George royalties, on some of these elements that he has a stake in. But you also have to ask yourself, is there more than that? What if George Lucas somehow still has the right to make a Star Wars movie, even if he had to go ahead and pay Disney or share profits with Disney or whatever? But it's almost like they are rushing to cut him off, and it's not so much cut him off financially, but it seems more like they're rushing to cut him off from acting. And I also want to bring to bring to everybody's attention how George Lucas very recently did something that he hasn't done in years, and did a private screening of the original Star Wars, and almost saying, and maybe we're reading too much into this, but it's almost like saying, you know what, I still have some control here, and when you start to look back at George Lucas's how he approached Star Wars, made the making of Star Wars, Empire, and Return of the Jedi, when he was dealing with Hollywood execs, he was very big on keeping control, and he was steps ahead of everybody else, of all these executives and even everybody else in the industry. He was always thinking ahead, and you have to ask yourself, Disney being this financial superpower, of course they could afford to give George $5 billion and not really be a big deal for them. But you have to ask yourself, did they actually buy Star Wars? Or what is it? Obviously there's something there, but and it's probably, we may never find out what it is, but who knows? Maybe it's more than just George having stake in the old characters. Maybe Disney is trying to cut him off from exercising some little clause in their agreements about him, him being able to create another Star Wars movie with the old characters. Who knows? And maybe in some degree, maybe George's selling of Star Wars is more like, selling like he sold them a franchise, like a McDonald's. He sold them a McDonald's, and he's the owner of McDonald's, and he's still the owner of McDonald's. So, and we don't know what the details of that are, but we also know that George did go ahead and he warned Disney, not to go the route that they were going. Of course, you can say that he was just doing it for creative reasons. He said it's just a big, terrible mistake. It's a huge mistake. So, but now with this stuff that Gary from Neurotic and Doomcock are reporting, I think they were the first ones to bring it out. I think Gary was, actually. That with all this stuff that's coming out, you have to ask yourself, did George sell Disney an exclusive single unit franchise with no other franchisees, no other competitors, and therefore by George being the only other person who has any rights to Star Wars, is there a time-sensitive non-compete clause where George can't make a movie, for example, for 5 or 10 years, and then maybe afterwards he can? And this is where it seems like Disney is rushing to get rid of some of the old characters, the primary tools that George might use if he was gonna go ahead and do another film. So yeah, some of you are probably thinking, it's crazy to say that George can still make a Star Wars movie. But it's also crazy that there is no real Star Wars at Galaxy's Edge, for example. There's no classic Star Wars at Galaxy's Edge, and there is no intention of having the classic Star Wars characters involved in long term, and it seems like it's more than just paying royalties out to George. So anyway, let's hope for the best with our beloved Star Wars. And greetings from Naboo to all of you.